Naomi Rivera had always believed that her life's purpose was among the stars. As a botanical xenologist specializing in extraterrestrial plant life, she had visited 18 different planets, but none of them had prepared her for Viridian. The descent wasn't supposed to happen this way. Her research vessel, the Helix, shuddered violently as it tore through Viridian's dense atmosphere, emergency systems blaring warnings she could no longer address. The stabilizers had failed 10 minutes after entering orbit, and now all Naomi could do was brace herself against the pilot's chair as the ship plummeted toward the lush green surface below. "Mayday, mayday, research vessel Helix going down at coordinates. Coordinates." She frantically tried to read the flickering display, but it flashed and died before she could finish the transmission. The communication system sparked and went silent. The final impact was both softer and more violent than she expected. Softer because the dense canopy of enormous fern-like plants broke her fall, more violent because the subsequent crash through multiple tree trunks sent her flying from her seat, despite the safety harness. Pain exploded through her body as something sharp pierced her side. The world spun, darkened, then faded to black. When consciousness returned, Naomi was first aware of a gentle blue glow. Then came the pain, sharp, insistent, radiating from her side. She tried to focus, blinking away the fog of semi-consciousness. "Be still," came a voice like nothing she had ever heard. It was deep yet melodic, with an otherworldly resonance that seemed to vibrate through her very bones. Naomi's vision cleared slowly, revealing a face hovering above her. The face belonged to a being with skin the deep azure of Earth's oceans at twilight. Intricate bioluminescent markings pulsed across his forehead and cheeks, flowing down his neck and disappearing beneath a garment made of some iridescent material. His eyes were larger than human eyes, with no visible iris, just pools of liquid silver that somehow conveyed concern. "You're hurt," the being said, now resting long, four-fingered hands on her wounded side. The metal cut deep. Naomi tried to speak, but could only manage a hoarse whisper. "Who?" "I am Thorn," he replied, his silver eyes never leaving her face. "You fell from the sky in your metal vessel. Others of my kind would have left you to join the Earth, but I could not." With gentle efficiency, Thorn applied something cool and gelatinous to her wound. Instantly, the burning pain subsided to a dull throb. Naomi looked down to see a translucent blue substance covering the gash in her side. "What is that?" she managed, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her fear. Thorn's markings pulsed slightly brighter. "It comes from me, my essence heals." As she watched in astonishment, the blue substance seemed to merge with her skin, the edges of her wound already beginning to knit together before her eyes. "That's impossible," she whispered, though the evidence was literally under her fingertips. Thorn helped her to sit up, supporting her with surprising strength. Now Naomi could see they were in some kind of dwelling, a structure seamlessly grown from living plants that curled and twisted to form walls and a ceiling, with bioluminescent fungi providing soft, ambient light. "Where am I?" she asked, trying to gather her thoughts. "This is my home," Thorn replied. "We are in the Whispering Valley where few of my kind venture anymore." A shadow passed over his features. "It is safer for me here alone." "Your kind? You mean there are others like you?" Thorn's markings dimmed slightly. "The Luminari, my people, they dwell in the great living city beyond the Crystal Falls." He turned away, adjusting something on a shelf formed from a broad leaf. "But I am not welcome there." Naomi studied him, noting the tension in his broad shoulders. "Why not?" For a long moment, Thorn was silent. Then he turned back to her, his silver eyes reflecting the bioluminescent light around them. "I believe all life is worthy of preservation and respect. The Luminari do not share this belief, especially regarding outsiders." He gestured to her. "Like you." Naomi felt a chill despite the comfortable temperature. "Are they dangerous?" "They fear what they do not understand," Thorn said carefully. "And they have not encountered your kind before, at least not that I know of." He moved to a circular opening in the wall, a window, Naomi realized, and looked out at the alien forest beyond. Night had fallen, and the landscape was alive with soft blue and purple light emanating from plants of all descriptions. "You should rest," he said, turning back to her. "Your body needs time to accept the healing." "My ship," Naomi said suddenly, remembering. "My equipment, my samples, I need to retrieve them." "Tomorrow," Thorn promised. "When you are stronger, The forest is not safe at night for one who does not know its ways. Too exhausted to argue, Naomi settled back onto the surprisingly comfortable surface beneath her. Some kind of living moss, she realized drowsily. As sleep began to claim her, she watched Thorn move around the dwelling, his movements fluid and graceful, his bioluminescent markings providing a gentle, soothing glow. Her last conscious thought was that despite crashing on an unknown planet, despite being injured and completely cut off from her people, she felt strangely safe in the presence of this alien being who had saved her life. Days passed as Naomi recovered under Thorn's care. Each morning, he would apply more of his healing essence to her wound, which was closing at a rate that defied all medical science she knew. Each afternoon, when her strength allowed, he would take her on short walks through the immediate surroundings, teaching her about the local flora. This one, he said, indicating a spiral-shaped plant that unfurled as they approached, senses heat and movement. It is called Myrazil sunseeker. Naomi reached for her tablet, salvaged from the crash site on their first excursion, and recorded the information. The adaptive response is almost instantaneous, she murmured, fascinated. On Earth, our plants move toward light too, but over hours or days, not seconds. Thorn watched her with evident curiosity. You study living things. Plants specifically, Naomi replied, looking up from her tablet. I try to understand how they grow, how they adapt to different environments, and what properties they might have that could benefit my people. Something in Thorn's expression shifted, and when you find these benefits... Naomi hesitated, sensing the subtle change in his demeanor. We cultivate them respectfully, use them to heal, to provide food, to make our lives better. She tucked the tablet away. I would never exploit or harm a living ecosystem. That's why I'm here alone, to observe and learn, not to take. Thorn's markings brightened slightly. Then you are rare among your kind, as I am among mine. The simple statement carried weight, and Naomi felt a connection forming between them. Two beings who perhaps understood each other better than their own peoples did. That evening, as they shared a meal of fruits Thorn had gathered, Naomi finally asked the question that had been building for days. Why do you live alone, Thorn? What happened between you and your people? Thorn set down the crystalline cup he'd been drinking from, his silver eyes reflecting the bioluminescent light around them. I was once to be a leader among the Luminari, he said quietly. My healing abilities are stronger than most. This marked me for a position of importance. His markings dimmed to a barely visible glow. But I questioned our traditions, our isolation, our treatment of the other sentient species that share Viridian. And that was enough for them to exile you? Naomi asked, incredulous. Not alone, Thorn's gaze met hers. The final break came when I refused to use my abilities as a weapon. A weapon? How could healing be a weapon? Thorn was silent for a long moment. What can heal can also harm, Naomi. The same energy that knits your wound can unmake another's flesh. I refused to demonstrate this power against the Crimson Dwellers when ordered to do so by the Council. My cousin, Sephir, was particularly displeased. Naomi studied him, seeing the pain behind his stoic expression. So you left. I was given a choice, conform or leave. His markings pulsed once brightly. I chose to remain true to myself, even at the cost of everything I knew. Without thinking, Naomi reached across the space between them and placed her hand on his. His skin was cooler than human skin, almost silky in texture, and she felt a faint vibration beneath her touch, like the purring of a cat or the humming of a distant engine. I understand, she said softly. Sometimes standing by your principles means standing alone. Thorn looked down at their joined hands, a look of wonder crossing his features. Then, gently, he turned his hand over and curled his 4 fingers around hers. Perhaps, he said, his voice hardly more than a whisper. 30 days had passed since Theo's crash landing on Valesha, and with each sunset the strange planet felt less alien. Under Nylara's patient guidance, he had begun to grasp the basics of her language, a melodic tapestry of sounds that seemed to shift with emotional undertones. In return, he had taught her English, marveling at how quickly she absorbed new vocabulary. The pavilion where they stayed remained their sanctuary. Though it stood in the shadow of the magnificent Crystal City, Nalara had never taken him there. Not ready, she would say simply, one of the first phrases she had mastered in his language. This morning, however, something was different. Thea sensed it the moment he woke to find Nalara packing the iridescent floor, her violet skin catching the prismatic light from the windows. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting up on the bed of soft, moss-like material that had become his sleeping place. Nalara stopped packing and turned to him, her silver eyes troubled. "My brother comes," she said, the words carefully pronounced. "Jorith." Theo had learned bits and pieces about Nalara's family over the weeks. He knew she was royalty, a princess of the Velesian people, though she seemed uncomfortable discussing her status. Her brother, Prince Jorith, had been mentioned only in passing, usually accompanied by a darkening of her expression. "Why now?" Theo asked, rising to his feet. Nalara's gaze dropped. "He knows of you." The words sent a chill through Theo. During his entire stay, Nalara had been secretive about his presence, keeping him hidden away from the city and its inhabitants. He had assumed it was for his protection, an alien among a species that might fear or misunderstand him. Now he wasn't so certain. "Is that bad?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Before she could respond, a low, resonant tone filled the air, something between a bell and a vibration that Theo felt in his bones. "He is here," Nalara whispered, her composure slipping. She quickly crossed to Theo, taking his hands in hers. "Listen carefully, my brother is not kind. He sees you as useful, not as—" She struggled for the word. "A person," Theo offered. "Yes," she squeezed his hands. "Show respect but reveal little. Your knowledge of our language, hide it. Understand." Theo nodded, his mind racing. What did Prince Jorith want with him? And why had Nalara kept him hidden if not solely for his protection? The entrance to the pavilion shimmered, and 3 figures stepped through. 2 were clearly guards, burly Velesians with deep blue skin, wearing armor that seemed to be made of living crystal. Between them stood a tall, regal figure that could only be Prince Jorith. Unlike Nalara's soft violet skin, Jorith's was a hard, vibrant purple that bordered on magenta. His features shared Nalara's elegance but lacked her warmth, all sharp angles and cold calculation. Where her eyes were luminous silver, his were a piercing metallic gold that seemed to cut through whatever they gazed upon. His hair, pulled back in elaborate braids interwoven with crystal shards, was the color of deep space with flashes of cosmic dust. "Sister," Jorith said, his voice smooth and cultured. Though he spoke in the Velesian language, Theo understood enough to recognize the condescension in his tone. "I see your pet still lives." Nalara replied in rapid Velesian, too quick for Theo to follow completely, but her protective stance in front of him spoke volumes. Jorith laughed, a sound like breaking glass. He approached Theo, circling him slowly, examining him as one might a curious specimen. "Do you know what you are, human?" he asked, switching to surprisingly fluent English. Theo kept his face neutral, remembering Nalara's warning to hide his understanding of their language. "I'm a spacecraft engineer from Earth." "No," Jorith said, stopping in front of him. "You are a key, a very valuable key." He turned to Nalara. "Did you tell him? Does he know why you've kept him secreted away all this time?" Nalara stepped forward. "Jorith, please." "My sister has always had a soft heart," Jorith continued, addressing Theo directly. "Too soft for the duties of rulership. That is why I must act for the good of Velesha." He gestured expansively. "Our world is dying, human. Our star grows unstable. In less than a millennium, it will expand and consume us." "A millennium seems like a long time to prepare," Theo said carefully. Jorith's golden eyes narrowed. "For a species with your brief lifespans, perhaps, we Velesians live for centuries. Many alive today will see this catastrophe. The time to act is now while we still have resources." He moved to a crystal console near the wall and waved his hand over it. A holographic display blossomed in the air, a map of the galaxy with Earth prominently marked. "Your planet is ideal," Jorith continued. "Similar atmosphere, abundant resources, manageable indigenous population." Theo's blood ran cold. "Manageable." "We have been observing Earth for decades," Jorith explained. "Your wars, your environmental destruction, your divided loyalties. You are technologically advanced enough to be useful laborers but not united enough to present significant resistance." "You're talking about invasion," Theo said, horror dawning. "I prefer resettlement," Jorith replied with a thin smile. "But yes, the Council has rejected this plan for centuries, clinging to outdated principles of non-interference. They needed proof that humans could be controlled." His golden eyes fixed on Theo. "And now we have you living proof that humans can be compatible with Velesha." Theo glanced at Nalara, whose face had gone pale. You've been experimenting on me? The healing, the language lessons. No, Nalara exclaimed. That was not. My sister's methods were gentler than mine would have been, Jorith interrupted. But the purpose was the same. We needed to know if humans could survive our atmosphere, adapt to our food, learn our ways. Thanks to you, we now have that confirmation. Theo felt sick. Everything he had shared with Nalara, the growing connection, the moments of laughter and discovery, had it all been a calculated experiment. Jorith waved his hand again, and the hologram changed to show Earth's defensive systems, military bases, and what appeared to be detailed analyses of potential invasion points. With your help, human, we can refine these plans, you. Knowledge of Earth's defenses will be invaluable. I'll never help you, Theo said through clenched teeth. Jorith's smile didn't waver. You misunderstand. Your cooperation is preferred but not required. We have methods of extracting information directly from your mind. Nalara stepped between them, her voice firm as she addressed her brother in their language. Though Theo couldn't catch every word, he understood enough to know she was objecting to Jorith's plans. The prince's expression hardened, and he responded with sharp, clipped phrases that made Nalara flinch. Their argument escalated, brother and sister facing off while the guards watched impassively. Finally, Jorith raised a hand in a gesture that silenced Nalara mid-sentence. Enough, he said, reverting to English. The council meets tomorrow. I will present our findings and our subject. He looked at Theo. Prepare him for transport to the city at dawn. With that, he turned and strode out, the guards following in his wake. When they were gone, Nalara collapsed onto a bench, her face in her hands. I am sorry, she whispered. So sorry. Theo stood rooted to the spot, his mind a storm of confusion and betrayal. Was any of it real? He asked, his voice raw. Or was I just an experiment to you all along? Nalara looked up, her silver eyes shimmering with unshed tears. It began that way, she admitted. When we detected your ship's approach, Jorith ordered me to retrieve any survivors, to study you, learn your weaknesses. She rose and stepped toward him, though she stopped when he backed away. But that changed, Theo. You changed everything. How can I believe you? He asked, the pain of betrayal sharp in his chest. Because I am risking everything to save you now. She moved to another console and activated it, revealing what appeared to be a small spacecraft hidden in an underground hangar beneath the pavilion. This vessel can take you home, back to Earth. Theo stared at the display in disbelief. You're helping me escape. I must, Nalara's voice